Hello, welcome into Zach's Picks. I'm Zach McCullough. Last week wasn't as good as a week as I had expected. Went 7-2, but those were close games. I missed the Ole Miss Arkansas game on a 2-point conversion play, and then I'm not even going to mention the other game I missed. I'm gonna start off first of all by thanking the Daily Mountain Eagle for hosting me. I always enjoy coming here and filming. And you just pick up a copy of the Daily Mountain Eagle, check it online. It's always good to read. First game, we got Vanderbilt traveling to take on South Carolina. South Carolina is an 18.5-point favorite. Vanderbilt, as we all know, is the worst team in the conference. But if there's a second worst, it's always going to be South Carolina. So this is an interesting game. The question is South Carolina bad enough to lose to Vanderbilt? And is Vanderbilt surprising us by looking bad and then coming out and beating South Carolina? I don't think so. I think South Carolina wins. But the spread is a little high. I've got South Carolina by 2 touchdowns. 18.5 is a shade over that, so I don't think they cover. Next, we have Texas A&M, who jumped back into the rankings after upsetting Alabama. They're traveling to Missouri, and Texas A&M is beat up. They got beat up, and they beat up Alabama, both equally. But Calzada got injured. He should be good to go, but you always wonder if he'll be thinking about getting hit again. Isaiah Spiller has a bruise on his ribs probably by now, and that is not going to help him any trying to run the ball. And there are many other players who are recovering from injuries. So I think that hurts them. They're 9-point favorites. I think they're going to come out there and play sluggish and slow at the beginning. And after you've just made an upset and you're not in the playoff contention anymore, I mean, their 2 losses is not going to get them in. So that might have been their national championship last week. So do they come out and perform? We don't know yet, but we'll see a lot in Columbia. I think they're going to come out, play sluggish, don't look good, but Missouri's not a good team either. So I think that really helps them, and I think they're going to come back and end up winning by about 2 touchdowns, and they'll cover the spread. Next game is 13th-ranked Ole Miss. They're traveling to take on the Volunteers of Tennessee after an exciting victory for Ole Miss against Arkansas. That was an excellent game. And Tennessee, they've improved. They're looking a lot better than they have been, but they're still just not there to beat a ranked team at this point. I think they play them pretty well. Ole Miss is only a 3-point favorite, and I understand why that's so low because Ole Miss, they got beat up, and that was an exciting win. They're probably looking ahead maybe. So I don't think Tennessee is going to be a pushover for them. I think it's going to be a good game for a little while, but in the end, Ole Miss runs away with a win, and they win by about 14, 17 points. Next, we step out of the conference for a little bit. An interesting matchup that has undefeated Oklahoma State traveling to Austin to take on the Longhorns of Texas. Texas is a 5-point favorite in this one, and when they're ranked 25th. Oklahoma State is ranked 12th. This should be an excellent game. And I've realized, if you followed Oklahoma State for the past few years, they win the games they're supposed to lose, and they lose the game they're supposed to win. And this is a game they're supposed to lose, so I think for that reason they win. And this will be a good game. And Texas, they're good, but they're not back like they've claimed for the past 6-7 years. So I think Oklahoma State comes out there, plays good. They both play good for a while, but in the end, Texas makes a few more mistakes that Oklahoma State capitalizes on. Next, we have 20th-ranked Florida traveling to Baton Rouge to take on the Louisiana State Tigers. This is an interesting matchup. It should be a very good game, but this is not at night. I think that comes and hurts LSU in this one, not having the impressive night atmosphere that they have had in previous games and previous upset victories. And Florida, they're surprisingly a 1.5-point favorite here. That is very low. And Florida, you have to think, is playing for some respect here. Because if you're Florida and you lose, you're 4-3 with losses to Alabama, Kentucky, and LSU. That's not very impressive. The losses, that builds up your loss resume a little bit, but you really haven't beaten anybody. So that would look bad. It'd be a black eye for Florida, but I don't think that happens. I think LSU makes a lot of mistakes, and I think Florida capitalizes. Therefore, I think Florida wins and wins big, covering the very small spread. Next, we have Auburn, who finds themselves unranked after being ranked for the first part of the season, traveling to take on Arkansas, who found themselves surprisingly ranked after the first part of the season after they upset Texas weeks ago. Arkansas is a 3.5-point favorite, and I think that's a little low. I think Arkansas is going to come out and play very well, but I think Auburn will start to battle back, which makes the score closer. I think Arkansas will win by a touchdown, and that's because Auburn, they got crushed by Georgia last week, and after playing Georgia's defense, you're not going to perform as well in the next game, and that should be one of the reasons they don't come out with a win here. Arkansas prevails. Next, you have Alabama traveling to take on Mississippi State in Starkville. Alabama's 5th ranked after losing last week, and the Dogs find themselves 17.5-point underdogs to Alabama. So that gives Mississippi State something to play for, beating Alabama again. But as you would imagine, after getting upset and seeing all those great streaks come to an end, Alabama would be very mad. And you can tell they are very mad. So I think they'll come out here and dominate utterly. Alabama, the reason they lost last week, I would say, is they made mistakes, but Texas A&M played a perfect game. Is Mississippi State capable of playing a perfect game? I just don't think so. I mean, they've looked impressive in their wins, but they've looked pretty bad in their losses, no matter how close they might be. So for that reason, I have Alabama coming out and winning big. They're 17.5-point favorites. Like I said, I think they cover. Next game is a very big game. College Game Day will be there, and it's in the conference. We have 11th-ranked Kentucky traveling to take on the top-ranked Bulldogs of Georgia in Athens. Georgia's a 23.5-point favorite. That is surprisingly humongous. Both teams come in 6-0, and Kentucky's fought hard to get there. They upset Florida in an excellent game, one of the best they've played in a long time. And as for Georgia, this might be the year that they can prove that they're back, which Texas hasn't done like I mentioned before. I think Georgia has. They're undefeated, top-ranked. They have a lot to play for. They want to get into that SEC championship game undefeated to take on most likely Alabama, maybe someone else, depending on if Alabama drops a game in the rest of the season. So I think Georgia's got a lot to play for. As for Kentucky, they do too. Same exact thing Georgia has to play for, except at this point, Kentucky is not ranked number 1. They're ranked 11. Georgia is by far the best team in the country. You could tell when you watch them dominate against all the teams they've played this year. If there's one problem with it, it's their offense. But Kentucky's offense isn't as impressive either. And this should be a defensive game, low scoring. And because it's so low scoring, I don't think Georgia can put up enough points to match the 23.5-point spread. But they do win nonetheless. Well, that's all the games I have for you this week. It's always good to be back. And like I said earlier, went 7-2 last week. Hope to do a lot better this week. Hope Alabama doesn't lose again. Thank you for watching, and God bless.